It's Hollywood Balls with me, Geordie Pete Redding from Dubai, and I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, a bit of a legend all round, former Wembley Cup final hero, hugely respected international manager, and perhaps my favourite of all, one of the founding members of the infamous Crazy Gang. Welcome to Hollywood Balls, Lawrie Sanchez.
Hiya, how are you?
We're very good, thanks. We're very good. Before we get into the questions, and we've got some real good ones for you. What have you been up to recently? What's happening?
I've just completed an MBA. I've always wanted to do an MBA. I did a degree at Loughborough at the start, when I was younger. And I'd always wanted to do an MBA, and I mean, they're quite expensive things to do, but one came up at University of Salford a couple of years ago. I like the look of the course. It was in CEO of a sports organisation, so that was something it sort of interested me. And I've literally 30th of September I've handed my dissertation, and that's it done. So awaiting the outcome of that, and then hopefully that being all right, I'll have an MBA, which is not a bad achievement not a bad achievement for anybody, to be fair, let alone a footballer.
So school's out currently. It leads me nicely in though, because we've had a trend of guests, Lawrie, on the show who've studied whilst being in the game. So tell us a little bit, because you did a degree while you were at your first club, which was Reading. Did you think it was important to study alongside whilst your career was launching?
Well, I went to a grammar school in the days when they were state funded in Reading. So I always had a work ethic that, academic was important. While I was at my school, I was a schoolboy at Southampton, and then at the age of 16, they decided that if I wasn't going to sign as an apprentice, then perhaps it'd be best if I let go, because they wanted, obviously, their apprentices to be playing in the teams from then onwards. I was immediately picked up by Reading, by Maurice Evans, who used to come and watch me play Wednesday afternoons in soccer games for the school. I remember saying to my sports teacher one day, "Is that Maurice Evans over there? What's he doing watching us playing a cold, wet Wednesday afternoon at a local school?" And he just said, "He's watching you."
No pressure.
So when I was doing the A levels, I actually made my debut for Reading, which was quite ironic. To give a 17-year-old schoolboy a chance, still at school. Literally, my school was literally a goalkeeper's kick from Elm Park. So there was a lot of. It was that close. To actually put him out on a pitch in the third division, as was then, is ironically as well. This is where the story gets even more interesting. I made my debut against Wimbledon. It was their first year in the league. Actually, it would have been Division 4. Sorry, not Division 3, Division 4. It was their first season in the league, and so they'd got in. I think they were voted. They were the last team voted in, I think, weren't they?
Yes.
Before it became automatic election. And in the middle of their midfield was Dave Bassett, who later, when I joined Wimbledon later on, was playing in midfield for him. I mean, it was the end of his career. I think that was his last season as a pro. And aside him was a lad called Stevie Galliers, who I went on to play with in the promotion-winning team 10 years later. So quite a lot of coincidences there. But that said, I then finished my A levels. Maurice Evans offered me a contract, so I took a year out to play football, which I did for Reading. I think we won the 4th division title that year, and I was pretty much a regular in the team. But at the end of that, I'd got a place at Loughborough University, because I'd studied it while I was still playing that year out from school. I did another A level, redid one of my A levels that I didn't get such a good grade in at school. Accumulated 4 A levels and got a place at Loughborough University to study business. So I went to the manager. I said, "Look, Maurice, I want to go to university. I'll be the first person in my family to go to university. It's something I've wanted to do. Loughborough is obviously a good university." Thinking, well, he'll say, "Thanks very much, away you go." And he said to me, "That's all right. I'll tell you what, we'll sign you on a 3-year contract." So I literally signed a 3-year contract and went to university at the same time. I know people like Steve Ioway and Steve Coppell, who were prior to me. They both sort of I think they both played professionally after finishing their university courses. I mean, so I was actually studying my university. I mean, I went to university from Monday to Friday, left university Friday afternoon, drove back to Reading, played on Saturday, went out Saturday night with the boys, and drove back Sunday to university. Actually, I stayed Sunday, drove back Monday morning to university to start at lectures started about 12 o'clock on a Monday to get back in time for my first lecture on a Monday. So that was my life for 3 years. And in fact, in one of those seasons, I was the only person at the club to play every first team game, which is, quite an achievement. That said, I mean, you got to remember, we used to start back in first week in July. Used to go to university beginning of October. So I did July, August, September, 3 months and in those days, that's pre-season. That's the early part of the season when you're playing 2 games a week. It slows down by the time you get to October. So then I went back to university for 10 weeks, came back for Christmas, which was again a busy period. I was training full time. Back to university for 10 weeks and then came back for Easter, which was again another busy time, but training full time for a month. And then at the end of that time, season was pretty much up, end of April, beginning of May. And Morris used to say to me, go back to university, study for your exams, and that's fine for us. That'll do us. So it worked. People say to me, how did it do? It worked. I remember for my 21st birthday, this was perhaps not what usually happened, but for my 21st birthday, I drove from Loughborough down to Banbury, met up with a captain who lived in Banbury. We drove down to Reading. Reading got on the coach there down to Bristol. Played at Bristol in the evening. This is a Wednesday, I think, or something like that, Tuesday, Wednesday. Came back from Bristol to Reading. Got invited up to the director's box to have a quick drink because it's my 21st. I said, I'm driving, but quick drink. Got back in my car with the captain, drove to Banbury. I got out of his car at Banbury. Then I drove from Banbury back to Loughborough. I got back to Loughborough about 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was, something like that. And that's my 21st birthday. So it was an indication of what life was like during that time. But you did it. It was your normal life, it's what you did. You just got on with it. Finished my degree and then came back to join Reading full time. And then we probably got relegated that first season I was back.
You mentioned Dave Bassett there now with Wimbledon coming in. Do you think Dave had noticed you, or was that move to Wimbledon quite out of the blue to you?
Well, I came back. Morris, we were top of the 4th division. We got relegated back to the 4th, having gone up when my first year is there. The following season, we were sort of 3rd in the table, and Morris got the bullet. A new chairman came in, a local lad, done well, came in, and he had his, like all chairmen, they have their own ideas for the club, and he brought in a number 2 to Morris, demoted the number 2 that Morris had already worked with, and by Christmas time, we were 3rd in the table, and he sacked Morris and appointed this bloke as manager, which, was disappointing for someone like me that had been given his chance by Morris Evans. Anyway, we got promoted that season. I think we finished there that season, went up, and beginning of the following season, I went in for my talk at the end of the season. I was runner-up in the Player of the Year. Trevor Senior scored 41 goals, I think, and I was second with 10. From midfield, which was not a bad knock. Yeah. And I went in to see the new thing for our weekly talk about contracts and rises. And he said, how do you think you've done? I said, yeah, I think I've had a good season. Runner up in the Player of the Year. I scored 10 goals from midfield, second leading goal scorer, played pretty much every game. He said, no, I don't think you've done that well. And the minute he said that, I knew my time was pretty much up at Reading. I did sign a contract, having been persuaded by one of the directors to actually stay. It's my hometown team. I didn't want to leave. When you're young, it's all I knew. But by October time, November time, I'd been eased out of the team. I was becoming a bit part player. And I came in one day and told me that Swindon want to sign you. Go down and talk to Lou Macari. So I went down to talk to Lou Macari. Had a good discussion with him. Reading were in the 3rd, Swindon were in the 4th. Got home from that chat, and then I got a phone call from a bloke called Vince Craven, who was chief scout at Wimbledon, as much as I had a chief scout. And he said, Lawrie, whatever you do, don't sign for Swindon. And I said, who is this? He said, it's Vince Craven. He said, Harry wants you to sign. I said, Harry who? He said, Dave Bassett at Wimbledon. Go up and meet him. Go up and meet him tonight. When you meet him at the Hilton on the M4. So I drove up, met him, had a chat. He offered me exactly the same money as I was getting at Swindon, but 2nd division, Reading 3rd, Swindon 4th. I thought, I'll take a gamble. I'll play in the 2nd division. Went back into the club. In fact, I said to Harry, should I go back into the club? He said, no, don't bother. Just go and get your boots. Come up and join us tomorrow. Train with us tomorrow. So I went back, called up into manager office. I said, what are you doing? You signing for Swindon? I said, no, you get a phone call later in the day. I'm off. took my boots and I went to Wimbledon and spent 10 years there, and the rest is history, if you want.
Fantastic. Now, everyone talks about the cup final goal, obviously. But really, you know, I've been looking at you and looking at your career. Equally, if not more important for me, was that goal that took you to the top flight against Huddersfield in '86. Would you agree?
Oh, without doubt. I mean, I get a lot of fans go up to me and said, "Oh, Wimbledon fan, I was at Wembley." I said, "Yeah, but were you at Huddersfield the previous year when we took about, 400 people up to on a cold midweek night to play at Huddersfield, where we actually got promoted?" And that thins them down rapidly from the thousands that would claim they're at Wembley to, the ones who are actually at Huddersfield. I mean, they're the true fans. I mean, great strike. Beaten 1-0, I think. And for me, it's a bit like when you talk about my England game. People say, "Oh, the England game, beating England was fantastic." But for me, the night that I remember the most was beating Spain, because that was the bigger achievement, I think. Yeah. Doing the Huddersfield thing was phenomenal. I mean, it's ironic that the two of the most important goals in the Wimbledon story are Huddersfield going up, obviously, and obviously Wembley. And I was involved. Well, I scored both of them, so it's not a bad achievement.
Speaking of the final, though, everyone had you pinned as underdogs. I remember watching it when it was the good old-fashioned all day in front of the TV cup final. So you had the build-up on both channels. You were on BBC and ITV. You could choose, and Dad wanted BBC, I wanted ITV, and it was a day of it. But I can remember it, and everyone, as I say, had you pinned as underdogs. But quite recently you said as well, and I had a look, that you did fancy it because you'd given Liverpool problems earlier that season and got results as well. So, you weren't quite the underdogs in your dressing room, so to speak, were you?
No, I think first year up in the top flight, we were. I mean, much as you can take the small Norwiches and even Bournemouth, it was smaller than Bournemouth. You didn't have millionaire flaming underwriting us. What came in was what went out. I mean, we were a team cobbled together, where they had to sell a player every year literally to survive. And so when we went up, I think we won at Old Trafford away first season up. We won at Anfield away first season up. I mean, which is phenomenal achievements. I mean, I think we were the last team to defeat, I think I've said it before, we were the last team to beat Liverpool at Anfield prior to that cup final. So they went through the following season undefeated at Anfield, like the current team to a certain extent. People forget, those that are brought up in the 80s, who were born later, forget that Liverpool were the team of the 70s and 80s. They were the Man United of their day. I mean, they were European champions. They were better, actually, because they were European champions on a regular basis as well. That's when they accumulated, 3 or 4 European Cups during the course of that era as well. So, although we were considered, I think we were 4-1 underdogs, I think was the betting. We never had an inferiority complex going out against them. We knew what we could do. We knew what we were good at. We knew if we did the things we were good at, we would cause them problems. And ultimately, it was one of those things we were good at that did win the game, the free kick. We were a big team. We had a great delivery in Dennis Wise, and a great technician, as they call him. We had a team full of people that were over 6'2", 6'3". So we caused anybody problems. And ironically, I scored at Chelsea. We played Chelsea last week of the season at home, and I scored a similar goal from a free kick, bent-in free kick. We as a team were not, me individually, we were good at those type of areas. Yeah. And we made it count, and we were solid. And as I say, the penalty miss is obviously another area that's recounted. And once they missed the penalty, I think everybody on the field realised that this was going to be our day no matter what. Yeah. And I think, we were fully justified in winning what was, at the time, not considered the greatest final in the world. But subsequently, there's been 2-3 documentaries made on it. I think Sky, BT Sport did their own film on it. So, and every year, a bit like Noddy Holder, I get dragged out somewhere along the line about one of the rounds to talk about my cup goal, and this was after a friend of mine, journalist, said to me, "I won't be remembered as a great cup final. It wasn't a great goal, and it wasn't a great game." And subsequently, every year, it's the one that people talk about. That is what the cup is about.
Great stuff. I recently watched that BT Sport documentary. It was very good as well. So I've got to ask you, because my friends have asked me to ask you, so I'm going to blame them. Who was the craziest of the crazy gang? And can you give us a favourite anecdote within reason?
Well, to be fair, the crazy gang, I mean, actually, I'm a founding member. I mean, the crazy gang was in operation before I ever got there. I mean, I joined in what was the second division championship now, and I spent a season and a half in there before we got promoted. But the players an awful lot of those players were playing in the fourth division, and subsequently, you know, a lot of them went on to play at the top level. So, you know, if you want true crazy game, people like Stevie Galliers, who I mentioned, Dave Besson, who's playing the fourth division, you know, Mark Morris, Mike Smith, people that had played, when you played in the fourth division for a club and played at the top level as well. I mean, for me, that's great. Jim Wally Downs is another one who did that. You know, those players that had played, Nigel Winterburn, I think, actually did that as well. So those players that have been at the bottom of the game and ended up at the top, I mean, you've got to give them great credit. With regard to stories, I mean, stories are a thing. I always remember one before I was there, when they came back, I think they beat Forest in the Cup when they're the lower leagues or something, and Forest were at the top. They came back and beat, and they were met by what was the local journalists and local film crew from London television. And they said, and they asked the chairman, a good old guy called Stanley Reid, who was a sort of real old Englishman, and he said, and they stayed overnight after the game and travelled down the following day, and they were met, and Stanley was interviewed, and they were asking how was it after the game? Was it great? He said, "Oh yes, the boys really enjoyed it. We had a really good night out." And the local girls in Nottingham were very accommodating. He said, I think something like that. And all the players have gone home to their wives, haven't they, having to watch this on the news with Stanley and thinking, "What are you saying, Stanley?" So, you know, I mean, that's one of the cleaner stories. I mean, the stories that went on behind the scenes. I mean, people ask me what it was like, because of all the stories that went out, and burning clothes and burning bags and cutting into, and I just say it's a bit like a tornado. Apparently, when at the center of a tornado, it's very still, and it's all swirling around you and around you. And going to work was like that. It was very still, and that was our daily routine. But when you came away from it and people look back at it, they said, "How did you survive in that turmoil that went on?" It was our daily life. I mean, you accepted it for what it was and got on with it. But to other people, they thought, "Oh God, you must be mad, must be crazy. You went in, your socks were cut up, and you tired with it." I mean, my cars, Dennis' wife. I mean, we've trained late on cup final, the day before the cup final. We're going up to the Canizares Hotel. I'm one of the last ones out of the train. We practice in defensively, practice free kicks, doing all the stuff. So we trained in the afternoon. So it's late, 4 or 5 o'clock before we go up to the hotel. I'm one of the last out of the car park. I get out, and all my car tyres are let down. This is the day for a cup final where I'm supposed to be up for the pre-match meal, and I've got 4 flat tyres because flaming Dennis Wise has flaming let the tyres down. It was that type of daily, at the time, annoyance more than flaming laugh about it. But when you look back on it, you laugh about it now, that type of thing was going on when we were trying to concentrate on winning what was the biggest day in our life.
Moving from player to management, you must have great memories of your managerial career, and starting off at Sligo and player manager and semi-final of the FAI Cup, in your first season as well. So was it good times there?
Yeah, it was a great place to learn. I mean, I got offered the job. I mean, I didn't want to particularly be a player manager. I wanted to manage. I wanted to hang on my boots. I mean, I've done my cruciate about 2 years before the end of my career. And to a certain extent, it limited what I could do. And I was getting through games rather than enjoying games, which at the top level you can't do. Right. So I knew my time was up. And I thought, well, into management, I wanted to put boots on again. And of course, we had a bad start to the season, as you did, new club, blah, blah, blah. So I decided to put my boots back on under a little bit of pressure, which, I'm never great with people putting pressure on me, but I decided to put my boots back on. I literally managed from the centre of the field. I mean, I literally directed the game, which was great. I mean, I rather than shouting from the sidelines to what players did, I played centre midfield. I stood in the middle of the field and I directed 10 people around. And obviously the results picked up then, got to the semi-final of the FAI. And I thought, this would be a great achievement. If I can win the FA Cup and the FAI Cup, I wonder how many people have done that. And I looked it up in a book, and loads of people have done it apparently. And then I looked at, well, what if you win the FAI and the Scottish Cup as well? How many people? And people have done that as well. It's amazing the trophies that you're thinking, well, that'd be unique, that people have done miles before. Anyway, we unfortunately lost at home in the semi-final. Thereafter, it started to rain. I think it rained for about a month. If you ever fly over Ireland, you know why it's so green, because it just rains. It literally rained every day for a month. We were training inside in the gym for the best part of 4 weeks. And by the time we got out, we were near the top. I think we were third at the time, but thereafter we played a lot of games back to back. Results started to deteriorate, and the season sort of petered out. And I thought we had a great chance to go and win it, but the cup final deflated us a little bit. If we won the cup, it might have been the momentum that carried us on, but that and the rain. Came back the following season, and I got a call to come back to Wimbledon day after I flaming landed in Sligo, which is typical Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And I went back as reserve team manager at Wimbledon and managed there for a couple of years.
I'm spotting there's a trend here, Lawrie. You like a good cup run. You had another one in 2001 when you were, it's a famous one as well, with Wycombe. Do you think that put them firmly on the map for other football fans to see, because people were following them and cheering them along?
Well, I mean, if you look at the managers that come out of there, but they're a great collection of managers. I mean, Martin, obviously, Neil came out of there. I mean, Lambert's come out of there subsequently when he took them to the semi-final of the League Cup. Obviously, got the current manager doing a fantastic job there getting them up, which is, if they were to lose every game this season, that'd still be an achievement, So I got the chance to go there. It's a great club. It's a great little club. I don't know if you've ever been. I mean, it's down the end of an industrial estate. I mean, but it's a nice little stadium. And we had 10 games I think we played that cup run, and every game, so every step we played was against a team that was higher than the previous one. So we no step back. We started with the non-league club and worked all our way up to Liverpool, and every step was a bigger step. And beat Millwall, who were top of our league at the time under Mark McGee. A very, very good side. Obviously beat Wimbledon on the way over two legs, and unbelievable cup. I think a 10-9 cup shootout. We played over an hour with 10 men. I mean, unbelievable. That's a question. That's a good question, Marshall. What happens if it's 10 versus 11 on a cup shootout? Do you know what happens?
No.
If they get all the way to 10, if they get all the way to 11,
they go around again.
No, the other side have to deduct a player, don't they, prior to the cup shootout?
Right.
Because of the one you were missing. Yeah, it's quite an interesting thing. I mean, I remember the night at Selhurst, referee's gone to me, we're going to do the penalty shootout that end there. And I said, why? He said, the safety officer said that's the best end. Of course, it was in front of the Wimbledon fans, wasn't it? I said, no, I don't think so. He said, what do you mean? I said, we're not going to do that. We'll toss for it. He said, no, it's that end. Safety officer says it has to be that end. I said, no, we're not taking part. You either toss for it or we walk off the pitch now and you can talk about it afterwards.
Wow.
He said, what do you mean? And he had a chat and he came back and said, all right. So we tossed for it and it was at the same end the safety officer had chosen, we lost. But, Mark Williams, who's later a player of mine in Northern Ireland, when we were, during our good times in Northern Ireland, flaming blasted over the crossbar, didn't he? To put us through. Then we obviously the Roy Essendon story is a story in itself. Winning someone that's coming off the prior to internet teletext, being recruited, never scored a goal that season. Centre forward, needed a centre forward that was not cup tied, could play at our level, not a higher level, play at our level, and wasn't cup tied and was available. I mean, how many of those do you find? So we found got this one in. He hadn't scored a goal that season. And in fact, I think the goal he scored at Leicester was the only goal he scored that season as a centre forward, which is, it shows what a remarkable story, even more remarkable story it is if you want, but it's a great goal. I mean, he comes on and scores a goal that has put him in the annals of FA Cup history forever. And it's not a fluky goal. It's a fantastic jackknife header of a goal, isn't it? So he knocked Leicester out, who were fifth in the first division at the time. I mean, that's not at their ground, not a bad achievement. I remember Alan Birchnell, bless him, I think he's now passed away, said before the game, he was their interviewer, wasn't he? And he came out and we were chatting and that, and he was saying, enjoy the game, as if to say, enjoy your day out.
Your day out.
And I said, I remember thinking, we will enjoy our day, Alan. Thank you very much. And subsequently, go through to the semi-final, and then against Liverpool. I mean, my football career has seemed to be tied in with Liverpool. Obviously, the FA Cup final, the semi-final, and the game that got me my job full time at Fulham was beating Liverpool.
Remember it well.
A European game, and I think Neil Warnock wasn't happy they didn't put out a full team, but we still beat them. That kept us up and pretty much relegated Sheffield United at the time. But so, Liverpool. I always say, I mean, they had to drag on Heskey and Gerrard,
Yeah.
To supplement Owen Fowler, to go through, and they scored in the 79th minute or something like that from a corner, which ironically, I think Roy Essendon should have been marking the player that scored. I think it was Heskey scored. So to hold them. I mean, that year they won 5 trophies. I think they won the UEFA Cup and the Super Cup. And
they were like
League
cup specialists, weren't they, that season?
Yeah, I think in a calendar year they won 5 trophies, didn't they, under Houllier? So to take them to where we did, made £1 million, which if it had been a year later when they brought in televising all the quarterfinals, and they upped the prize money, would have doubled to about 2.5 million. I mean, that £1 million bought the training ground at Wimbledon, at Wickham, because Wickham was a cooperative club. It's ironic that Sligo was a cooperative, i.e. it balanced its books, and on Wickham when I was there, it was a fans cooperative club, with the manager balanced the books along with the overdraft at the bank, and that was what we had to do. So to achieve £1 million profit by the training ground, which was a phenomenal achievement, invested in 1 or 2 players, I thought we'd push on from there. Then of course On Digital hits us, and we have to start cutting back left, right, and centre. And there was nobody to fund it. The manager had to cut all the players, cut the wages, cut the staff, and unfortunately it ended. It didn't end well at the end, as it never does. Despite what you achieve.
Now you mentioned a good quiz question, so I can't let you go without getting our own back on you. But it's quite. I didn't know this, and I consider myself to be quite the stats man. But my favourite trivia question currently, and is it true? So you can help us all. You were the first player to be sent off for a professional foul in 1982 for deliberate handball.
Yes, it is true. And the story is the year before, Willie Young had drugged down the young Alan. I can't remember which Alan. But in the cup final, he'd gone through, hadn't he?
Yes. Was it Paul?
Paul Allen, that's the one. At West Ham, wasn't it? West Ham versus, I'm trying. Who would Willie Young have been playing for at the time? Man United?
Think so.
And he's gone through, hasn't he, Alan? And he's scythed him down. A bit like what's name did at the weekend for Man United, didn't he? When he scythed down Shaw, when Shaw was the Man United fullback.
Yeah.
Anyway, he hacked him down. He was away, and he literally hacked him down. It was the only way he could catch him. And there was a massive outcry, wasn't there? And UEFA decided to bring in, I don't know whether it was about 2 years before, because I don't think it could have quite happened over the summer, but UEFA eventually brought in, if you're goal scoring opportunity, your automatic red card, which a lot of people have been calling for after that. So as I say, I don't think it probably wasn't the following year, it's probably the year after, because they'd have gone to IFA board and everything, weren't they? Anyway, so they bring it in. It sort of went under the radar a little bit. Nobody knew about it. So I'm subbing we're playing Oxford United in a pre-season tournament, sort of a full members pre-season tournament group stage thing, prior to a week or so before the season started. So I sub, I come on, and they shoot, and I'm on the goal line. I think it was a corner or something. I'm on the post at the corner, and I dive, as you all did in those days, didn't you? Everybody loved to have a dive, didn't they? We dived and punched the ball away, thinking penalty. I think even booking, I think it would be in those days. The referee's come across, and he's gone, "You're off." And that's the days before referees came in and sort of briefed us about the new rules and everything. What do you mean you're off? I said, the law regulation changed, scoring a deliberate home goal or deliberate stopping a deliberate goal. And all the players going, you can't send him off. It's pre-season tournament. It's the rule now. We've got to send him off. So I was on the field for about 9 minutes. So before, and so I walked off thinking, we've only been sent off 3 times. And that was the first one. And I thought, never mind. The worst thing was in the dressing room after the game, I'm the goalkeeper, who's a right. Well, what can I say? He's a goalkeeper. He's gone to me, didn't need to do that. It wasn't going in anyway. I said, oh, cheers for that. Thank you. So, yeah. So that is, as I understand it, I was the first player in this country, certainly, to be sent off for the professional foul. So
we'll keep that as the Hollywood Balls quiz question now that it's been approved by its owner. Lawrie would like to thank you for taking the time to speak to us. It's been a blast listening to your memories, and hopefully we'll welcome you back on the show very soon.
Yeah, anytime.